When crazy conspiracy theorists turned out to be right.
From Alex Jones and Bill Cooper to Edward Snowden, Terry Davies and Bob Marley, society's so-called conspiracy theorists have turned out to be right time and time again. Some of their stories became vindicated when the fool's story broke.
Boobies.
He was the guy who told me about Epstein's Island more than a decade ago, and I thought it was the craziest thing I'd ever heard.
But most never saw the light of day, because
Terry
the
was
search for truth has a habit of pushing
he's
people
different
to
from
the
the
very
rest,
edge
man.
like this.
Hello? So let it
What
be right
happened?
then. So let it be done.
What happened?
Well,
Terry,
I'm
what
King
happened?
Terry, and learned how to purify myself in a horribly impure environment. It's pretty rough living homeless.
This is what I think. Like, I have a soft spot for Terry because, like, you watch his stuff and he, like, actually deteriorates in real time. I wish my taxpayer dollars went to getting him help. Yeah, like, he's actually suffering, you know? A brilliant mind in an unjust world type of shit situation.
And,
Truly sad.
That's Terry Davis, a diagnosed schizophrenic and brilliant computer programmer
Yeah,
who built
insane,
an
like
entire operating
genius
system by
levels.
himself in a programming language he invented. And he said God told him to build a temple, so he called the operating system Temple OS. In his last years, he was mostly homeless, drifting across the American West, uploading chaotic videos from motel rooms and parking lots. Terry had spent years claiming that CIA agents were monitoring his computer and that they were
He's
everywhere
not lying.
online. He
He's
said
not
they glow in
lying.
the dark, a phrase that became the go-to slang for
Fucking
identifying
glowies.
federal agents in public spaces.
The CIA is glow in the dark. You can see them if you're driving. You just run them over.
Then, he was hit by a train in Oregon in 2018 at the age of 48.
Yeah,
but his followers
that
didn't
was sad.
accept that it was an accident. And now he's become synonymous with the conspiracy theorists that no one listened to. Because paranoia is a very effective tool for discrediting someone. If you're truthfully
They did a very
unwell,
fascinating.
everyone...
I watched like a whole like 3-hour thing about like how this guy breaks down how he became like, you know, it gets worse over time because mental illnesses and brain deterioration, like from schizophrenia, can lead down this path where you basically just, you know, it gets worse over time. There's medical reasons and psychological reasons. It's really sad what happened to him, man.
eventually stops listening to you. But if you're not, it's a brilliant way to engineer that same outcome.
Ad?
Ernest Hemingway, one of the most
it's not an
celebrated
ad.
writers in history, was played by this exact strategy. In his final years, he was telling his wife, friends, and doctors that the FBI was watching his every move. Of course, nobody believed him, and his own wife thought he'd lost his mind. He went through multiple rounds of electroshock therapy, which destroyed his memory and, by his own account, his ability to even write. So, he took matters into his own hands on July 2nd, 1961. Years later, a biographer filed a Freedom of Information Act request and found a large file signed off by J. Edgar Hoover himself.
Oh, the Hoover guy.
Oh, I found this the other day about Hemingway. Hemingway always thought that the FBI was trying to get him, and apparently,
He was
apparently
right.
they actually were.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, they actually were. The FBI investigated Ernest Hemingway for decades, with surveillance beginning in the 1940s due to concerns about his activities in Cuba and his associations with individuals suspected of communist ties. While
They
initially
called him
dismissed as
crazy,
paranoia,
man.
it was later revealed that Hemingway's fears were grounded in reality, and the FBI did monitor him, even tapping his phones and intercepting his mail. The surveillance continued
so
throughout
fucked.
his later years, including his time in the hospital, and may have contributed to
Everybody's-
his mental
And
anguish.
everybody's gaslighting and be like, no, they're not following you. Man, fuck these guys, man.
And suicide.
Frick them
So
glowies.
why did they do it? Well, first, he was spending a lot of time in communist Cuba. Second, look at his two most famous books, For Whom the Bell Tolls romanticized an American fighting alongside communists in Spain, while A Farewell to
A
Arms is
well-written
packed
book,
full of
though.
anti-war messaging. Massive influence combined with a message like this is not
And
a
this was like during the, like, kind of like a Red Scare, too.
good combo in the eyes of certain
Yep.
government agencies. Either way, the FBI had been watching him,
Propaganda.
but everyone around him said he was just paranoid. Few know this feeling better than the most famous conspiracy theorist alive today.
When you've got the same FBI a couple years ago with Jeffrey Epstein, who had the Lolita Express, with Bill Clinton on at least 16 round-trip
He was
flights
right.
to the Pile Island, he got convicted of running.
Alex Jones was talking about Epstein long before the files became undeniable. He also called out numerous false flag military operations.
I believe this was even before the Pizzagate bullshit, too. I only started knowing about the Epstein Island stuff when I started investigating and, like, reading and watching videos on the Pizzagate bullshit.
And repeatedly told everyone that they happened once, so they will happen again.
The same ones that staged Gulf of Tonkin, the same ones that staged Operation, the mass shootings of Operation Gladio.
Right.
I can speak in this accent as well.
Yeah.
Governments have staged terror attacks throughout history or allowed terrorists to attack.
Pizzagate was glowy BS? But Pizzagate, like, had ties to, like, the actual Epstein files. What do you mean? It's not. It's actually not. It was real.
As a pretext to invade and enslave.
I guess a glowy, yeah, you're
and for
fed.
years, Jones
Shut
warned
up.
that the US government had built a mass surveillance system to spy on its own citizens. He filed 9/11 in the same category as other false flags, and he wasn't the only one who went there before it became—
Do you think it's too spicy? 9/11 on Chacha's stream or with Kirsha? I know some people get real fucking defensive about it. Yeah, like, I remember there's a lot of people that got really kind of butthurt, man. You can just ask. Yeah, I'll probably ask. Kirsha will be okay. Yeah, like, I'm okay with it. But Chacha, I don't know. Like, I don't know her that well.
fashionable to do so.
I'll ask
This
her.
is Bill Cooper, a former naval intelligence officer who spent the end of his days on a hilltop in
Might be
rural
too spicy.
Arizona, broadcasting his rambling theories via a shortwave radio to anyone who tuned in. He was the author of the conspiracy manifesto Behold a Pale Horse. His ideas were the
Ooh, that
forerunners
was
of some of the
crazy.
biggest
That
conspiracy
book.
theories around today, like alien mythology, the Illuminati, and the mysteries surrounding JFK. Cooper was warning his followers that a major terrorist attack was coming on American soil, and that the government would use a man called Osama bin Laden as the scapegoat. He had watched the now infamous CNN interview with bin Laden in his hideout and couldn't believe what he was seeing. And you've got to pause on this particular point because it is
Holy.
utterly bizarre, and a lot of people have just completely forgotten about it. In 1997, CNN journalist Peter Arnett went to Afghanistan and interviewed Osama bin Laden on camera. Bin Laden then used the interview to basically declare war on America on television and broadcast this to the world.
But they let him too.
Against the United States.
You have to also fucking consider, like, they let him. They
Can you tell
rebroadcast
us
this shit.
Why?
The comments on the original
Powderwood,
broadcast
yeah,
say
but I'm
what
not
everyone's
collabing
thinking,
with her.
like,
I'm collabing with
USA,
Chasha
how'd
and
you find
Kirsha. It's
them?
different.
Reporter, snitches get stitches. And CIA,
Snitches
FBI, and
get
Interpol were
stitches.
searching for him like crazy at the time, and this reporter just found him
Wow.
that easy.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting.
Point being,
Isn't that weird?
either every intelligence agency in America is incompetent, or they knew exactly where he was and weren't pulling out all the stops to catch him. The intelligence community's argument is that knowing roughly where someone is in a lawless tribal region of Afghanistan and then being able to capture or kill them are two completely different things. The US had no troops on the ground in Afghanistan at this point, but the
Oh.
counterpoint still stands, and Cooper argued that bin Laden was already a CIA creation, funded and trained during the Soviet-Afghan War in the 1980s.
And this was in 2010.
CNN were
They
merely
wrote that.
maneuvering him into a position to justify future military operations and give people a face and name to pin those future headlines to. Then, on June 28, 2001, less than 3 months before 9/11, Cooper would say this on air.
And whatever is going to happen that they're going to blame on Osama bin Laden, don't you even believe it.
9/11 then
Don't
happens, and on
believe
November
it.
5th, 2 months after the attacks, he was shot dead by Apache County Sheriff's deputies outside his home. Deputies said they'd
Sheesh.
come to serve an arrest warrant for tax evasion charges he'd been dodging since
It's almost like government just do what it want and it don't care about what it want for the civilians. That's so crazy. They got him, yeah. The government do what it want 'cause it got the big gun. Yeah, that's right.
1998.
They got the info.
But they did arrive at 11:40 at night,
Shop
while also
for tax
using
evasion.
plainclothes
Yeah,
officers to bait
that's
him out
right.
of his house, and then that was the end of his story. Now, whatever you think about the event of 9/11 itself, it definitely was an inflection point for a new wave of conspiracy theories, some of which came true pretty quickly, because a couple of years...
It's crazy. I was a kid when this came out, and I still thought it was like the most outrageous thing ever. I thought this was crazy. Like, you're a kid, you have no concept of like government secrets or like traitors and like extraditions. Like, I thought this was like the craziest thing.
Years later,
That was awkward. It
Edward
didn't
Snowden
start.
walked out of a facility in Hawaii with tens of thousands of classified documents and pulled the pin on the biggest leak in a generation.
And this became a mass surveillance program called
WikiLeaks,
Stellar
man.
Wind, which they said was supposed to monitor the phone calls and internet communications, emails, and things like that of everybody in the United States and around the world.
He documented backdoors in Google, Apple, Facebook, and Microsoft. Virtually every big tech company was compromised and cataloging your data while censoring information at the government's request, which turned out even worse when the Twitter files leaked a few years later. And all of that time, the director of national intelligence had lied through his teeth under oath to Congress.
Well, yeah,
But
obviously.
what does it mean for a democracy when you can lie under oath to Congress, and the congressman even knows you're lying to them, but they're afraid to correct you?
But what most people don't know is that this started years earlier with a guy named William Binney, one of the agency's best codebreakers. William had designed a surveillance system called ThinThread that could collect intelligence and still at least attempt to maintain privacy, but after 9/11, the NSA scrapped it, killed the legal safeguards, and used his own work to spy on the entire country without telling anyone.
Yeah.
After 9/11, they took one of the programs I had done.
Well, that also links into the theory, or rather what people fucking think is true, right? That the reason 9/11 happened is because they wanted people to be more okay with being surveyed because it's like a national security thing, so they'd be more compliant. Yeah, absolutely. And the going to war thing, yeah, make some money. Like, I don't know, man.
Back end part of it.
It's
and
not.
started
Yeah, the
to use
Patriot
it
Act.
To
Yep.
spy on everybody in this country.
When he tried to blow the
People
whistle
are
through
more okay
proper
with it.
channels, the FBI showed up at his house with guns drawn while he was
People are more susceptible to giving up their rights and their freedom if it's out of fear. Even if they don't think it's fear.
getting out of the shower.
And they came in and pointed a gun at me while I was getting out of the shower at the time.
He's just got his fucking dick out and these guys are pointing a fucking gun at him? What the fuck?
They pointed a gun right at my old head, you know, said, hey. I wasn't too upset. I just said, yeah, I suppose I could get dressed here. This is something the KGB, the Stasi, or the Gestapo would have loved to have had about their populations. And just because we call ourselves a democracy doesn't mean we will stay that way.
Snowden himself said that William was a part of a group of early NSA whistleblowers who tried to expose similar programs before he did, and each one got destroyed for doing so. One of them, a senior NSA executive called Thomas Drake, found that the NSA was spending billions on surveillance programs that were both illegal and broken. After he reported it internally and nothing happened, he decided to take his story.
No, it was Israelis trying to drive us into war. You need to work on your conspiracy theories, Alana. What? Both things can't be true at the same time, you ding dong. Maybe you should work on yours. Duh.
To the Baltimore Sun. He was then immediately apprehended and charged under the Espionage Act, facing 35 years in prison, though the charges were dropped before the trial.
Yeah, Bill Binney is part of, shall we say, the group of early NSA whistleblowers who came with Thomas Drake, Bill Binney, Kirk Wiebe, I believe, and Ed Loomis. And these guys all got their doors kicked in, you know, they got harassed.
But it's not just serious intelligence guys and journalists who get caught up in these kinds of controversies. Bob Marley's music tells you a lot about what he thought of power and the government. His entire worldview was built on the idea that the systems running the world were corrupt, exploitative, and fundamentally designed to keep ordinary people down. You could even say he inspired an entire generation of conspiracy.
Michael Jackson's music was kind of like that. Towards the end when he had a lot of money and then the Hollywood killed him.
Theorists. Listen to Alex Jones talk about him on InfoWars.
I was listening to Bob Marley again the other day. I was on a Bob Marley jag. And I'm like, this guy was Alex Jones before I was born. It's a powerful song. He goes in to talk about the technocracy and the scientific elite wanting to kill humanity and destroy our children.
And they have this image of Bob Marley just being this guy who gets high and talks about friendship and shit, but like, if you actually dig into it, it's pretty fucking deep.
Every song's poetry. We're the survivors.
You've probably heard of the Rastafarian word Babylon. In Rastafari, Babylon envelops the police, the government, the colonial system, basically the entire Western power system that keeps ordinary people at the bottom. Bob was preaching to millions that this system was their enemy. Then, just as his career was reaching its peak, this happened.
Entertainer and reggae star Bob Marley, Rita Marley, and the manager of the Wailers, Don Taylor, are now patients in the University Hospital after receiving gunshot wounds during a shooting incident, which took place at Marley's home at 56 Hope Road tonight.
Bob then left Jamaica the next morning and didn't return for months. Jamaica's government had been moving towards socialism, which the US saw as a major threat, and he believed—
because Jamaica's really close geographically to America. Yeah, they had a big thing at the time. It was like Cuba, Jamaica, I think another place, maybe a couple of other places, like close to like the Caribbean.
He'd been targeted as a result.
Yeah.
It was a classic CIA-backed coup, as the island was now being flooded with cheap guns, drugs, propaganda, and brutal policing tactics. According to documents in the CIA archive that you can see here, the Washington-backed campaign left over 750 people dead, and Edward Seeger, the US-backed candidate, won the election. Declassified files have since confirmed that Marley had his own CIA file and was labeled a subversive.
Do you think Bob Marley was dangerous?
Yes. He was very dangerous on all sorts of levels. He was dangerous in a very basic way. The idea in 1976 that you would get poor Jamaicans to start thinking for themselves in itself was dangerous.
Yeah.
And the idea that
keep the poor
this
dumb
guy
people
with
down,
this,
am I right, fellas?
Uncombed here, speaking terribly, becoming this voice of freedom and black struggle.
Bob Marley's manager, who took most of the bullets that night of the shooting, wrote in his memoir that he believed the CIA was behind it. It's now thought they might have paid for it with drugs and guns. Bob Marley then dies of cancer at age 36, long before any of the CIA files were declassified. He never got to see the proof that the world he'd been warning people about was real. And the era he represented, where a musician could threaten the establishment by telling people to think for themselves, died with him.
Thinking individualism?
Controlling entire governments
That's not allowed,
is somehow pretty mainstream compared to what others have exposed. This is Ted Gunderson, who once ran the FBI's Los Angeles field office. Fed. Agency experience and knowledge. When he retired, he spent decades on the lecture circuit warning everyone about government mind control programs, blackmail operations, and potential ritual-style abuse.
A long time ago, I talked about how they have these islands, they fly, they compromise children. But I learned all this from Ted Gunderson 20 plus years ago. He was in line to be the FBI director. He was the head of the FBI in Los Angeles.
Jeffrey's operation might feel new, but Gunderson tells you that it's probably just the latest installment of a strategy running for over 50 years.
He came out and he was the one that explained to me about how they use these blackmail rings, elements of the CIA. And
how long has the CIA been around for? Probably since like after World War II. Like, yeah, dude, it's been fucking deep, man. I also have a theory. No, it's not even a theory. Again, all these fucking conspiracy theories, I don't even think they're theories. I think it's true. I think propaganda seeps in through music and other forms of media. I think that to some extent, for example, South Korea got a lot of influence through K-pop and is like inadvertently influenced by Hollywood. Because it's all tied together, and Sony has a lot of power over there too.
Foreign intelligence groups, and how they would basically make people have sex with children, be part of these clubs and these cults they were setting up.
Gunderson also linked these kinds of operations with possible satanic ritual abuse. But in the late 80s and 90s, this was lumped in with the satanic panic
it's a big
and
gay
treated
club
as
and we're
mass
not
hysteria.
in it. Yep,
that's a big reason why he lost his credibility.
I'm not an anti-government person, I'm an anti-corruptionist. I love my country, and I will continue, as long as I'm alive, to continue to expose this evil element that's permeated throughout our society.
Like all the others, they called him paranoid and delusional. Ooh. He was labeled a crackpot, desperate for attention. But lo and behold, down the line...
But wait, that's kind of like the guy that, that's been recently what's his name? God, Pippa talked about him heaps of times. Like, I'm really bad with names. Yeah, they called him a little fucking cuckoo ass head and shit.
Many of the things Gunderson warned about were indeed proved true. One of the creepiest concerned a religious cult called the Finders, a Washington DC-based cult he described as a CIA child kidnapping organization. In 1987, police in Tallahassee, Florida found 6 children in a park filthy, covered in bug bites, accompanied by 2 well-dressed men who couldn't explain who these children belonged to. The trail then led to a property owned by the cult, where a US customs officer found computer equipment and documents containing instructions for obtaining children, including purchasing them, training them, and kidnapping them. The investigation was then hastily shut down.
No, the Finders is a cult that was caught trafficking children, and the CIA squashed the Florida.
And then Gunderson got it raided in D.C. and found a whole CIA facility with the snuff films, everything.
Telex machine.
And so he told me about all this, and I thought he was crazy.
Anyone who repeated Gunderson's claims were immediately dismissed. That wasn't until 2019 when the FBI declassifies 650 pages confirming that this.
You know what the biggest thing is like, why do they declassify things? Is it to like desensitize people from the fact that the government does bad things, and it's like, oh, well, they're just doing it because they have to. Like, is it that? They're forced to? Buddy, nobody's... Forced to by who? They legally have to? They're the government! What do you mean? Y'all are... There's a requirement... You guys are funny. You guys are funny, man. That's hilarious. The shadow government. Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, the shadow government forces them to. You're right.
CIA had been involved in the investigation, and that the State Department had mysteriously helped bury it, and that a former member of the group had admitted to doing security work for the FBI, NSA, and other government agencies. And the founding leader's wife had been a CIA employee for 21 years, and it was classed as an internal matter for the
interesting.
agency. It literally took over 30 years for Gunderson to be proved right in his belief that intelligence agencies were in the loop and buried the case. We don't know why, but he always alleged a link to other ritualistic practices across America, including Bohemian Grove, and some of his early ideas are now creepier
I saw this video a long time ago where Alex Jones is sneaking into it.
than ever in light of what they found on Mr. Jeffrey's private island.
These sell for like $100,000, private collections. The kids are sold for $50,000 on an auction block. Paul has attended 6 auctions, as few as 6.
Not so fun fact, Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch that he invited Macaulay Culkin at the time when he was getting invited to go to Epstein's Island, and he went over there instead, and years later he realized what had happened. And then months after that, Neverland got raided and accused of being like a ring for kids. I don't want to say the bad words too much because YouTube likes to flag it, but basically they found absolutely no evidence. He was completely acquitted, and then like years later he got freaking killed by that doctor with a drug that he wasn't even supposed to have. Like, that drug's not for helping sleep. It's for knocking you the fuck out, and if you take too much of it, then you die, because your heart stops. Yeah, isn't it? Is that kind of weird? I don't know.
As many as 36.
What the fuck? Let me play.
Kids,
there we go.
Boys and girls, mostly young kids, were auctioned off for up to $50,000 each.
I believe it.
Big business.
While no agency linked to the extent alleged by Gunderson or Alex Jones has been formally established, nobody was convicted of a crime in relation to what the police found that day. Ted also often talked about MKUltra, which was declassified in his era. But
I 100% believe this is real. I watched like so many videos on this shit when I was like even like a teenager. Oh my god.
Always claimed it was wildly misunderstood in how far it went. The goal was to hijack the brain, altering or erasing memories or creating assassins you'd kill on command with no memory of being programmed. It started with CIA employees, but that quickly backfired, so they had to start testing on the public instead. And to do that, they came up with something called Operation Midnight Climax.
So they went to San Francisco. They rented a safe house, and they hired to go out on the street, pick up Johns, bring them back to the safe house, dose the Johns with LSD.
And again, I think he's a really interesting individual, but I also think that there's a merit to the theory that he's a guy that's a front man for them, that they let them, he essentially squeals on them and desensitizes the fucking public into the horrible things that the CIA does, but it's like under the guise of like being interesting and like, oh, yeah, like kind of like a spokesperson, but like the reverse. It's like reverse psychology. Yeah, I do find him interesting. I have nothing against this guy, but I do think like we're inadvertently being psyoped by him. As long as you're conscious of it and you're like aware that you have to have a degree of skepticism in what he says, and I do think like some of the shit he probably very likely is 100% real. I do, but like, yeah, you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt. Everything you see is theatrics. Well, that's the thing. It's theatrics, but it's also real. But then the psychology is that you become desensitized to the theatrics so that they can do worse things and like omit the even worse things that they actually do. Because there's like levels to like your subconscious and like how much you can take as like a human being or like as a peasant. Because we are peasants. We're beneath them, right?
And just see what happens.
While these guys were losing their minds, CIA operatives sat behind one-way mirrors watching the whole thing while sipping a whiskey and smoking a cigarette.
Where this went off the rails, in a handful of ways, in many ways, was testing on unwitting subjects, things such as LSD and a variety of other substances. Yeah, whoops.
This was back when...
Voluntarily went to prison? Well, yeah, that's what they want you to think.
People were naive about drugs, so just imagine for a second that you begin to hallucinate wildly and you have absolutely no explanation for what's happening to you.
Whoa.
One of the main guys caught up in MKUltra was an army biochemist called Frank Olson. He was working on classified research when they slipped LSD into his drink at a work retreat without telling him.
And LSD doesn't taste like anything. A lot of these hallucinatory drugs, they don't taste like nothing.
9 days later, he throws himself through the window of a hotel room in New York. The CIA told his family he'd had a breakdown, but his son Eric believed his father had witnessed something he wasn't supposed to see. Possibly the use of bioweapons on prisoners. Eric had his father's body dug up, and the autopsy found blunt force trauma to the skull. The Manhattan DA reclassified
2 shots in the back of the head and then threw himself out of building, of course.
The death from to homicide. That story was then later made into the Netflix show Wormwood.
I was told that your father has had an accident.
When Congress finally started asking questions in 1973, the CIA director ordered that the MKUltra files should be destroyed.
In 1973, the CIA director ordered mass destruction of the MKUltra files. What we know comes from accidentally surviving documents, meaning this is a sanitized version.
Burning the files is one way to bury the truth, but there's another pattern of scrubbing the evidence here that speaks for itself, and you're probably starting to notice it by now. This is Gary Webb, a journalist who proved the CIA had knowingly allowed drug traffickers to funnel crack into black communities in LA throughout the 80s. 3 of the biggest newspapers in America coordinated to discredit him. His own editors abandoned him, and he lost
never trust journos, bro.
Everything. Then he was found dead in 2004 with 2 gunshot wounds to the head.
But, like, why do they do that? Why can't they just, like, not shoot him twice in the back of the head?
Ruled self-inflicted. The CIA's
2 shots in the back of the head. Yeah. Oh, I shot myself in the temple on the right-hand side, but I'm right-handed, and the gun was found in my right hand. But they found the bullet hole front start of it is in the left side of the head. Gotta make sure. Yeah, I mean, I know, but like...
Own Inspector General later confirmed he'd been right all along.
Yep.
Then there's Frank Serpico, a New York cop who spent years trying to report corruption inside the NYPD.
He was found dead in
Nobody
his
wanted
basement.
to hear it. And during a drug raid in Brooklyn, his fellow officers let him walk in alone, and he took a bullet to the face. They then made a film about it with Al Pacino called Serpico, but the department never apologized. And then there's David Kelly, who was one of the UK's top weapons experts, who told a BBC journalist that the British government had hyped up its case for invading Iraq. He was then outed, dragged before Parliament, and then found dead in the woods near his home.
I'm fine. I am not feeling bad. I'm feeling good. Don't believe the lies, chat.
Again ruled
I'm
self-inflicted.
okay.
Years later, a public inquiry
I do
confirmed
not want to
everything
blow
he'd
my
said,
head
and
off.
a panel of doctors and scientists doubted the official cause of death, and that pattern of convenient fatalities continues to the present day. In 2024, a quality manager at Boeing called Josh Barnett had been raising concerns for years about safety shortcuts on the 737 MAX production line. He was then found dead in his car in the midst of his whistleblower lawsuit against the company.
Oh my
And
god.
again, it was of course ruled self-inflicted. But there is one story buried in all of this that probably affects you right now, and not in a historical or political sense. If you're one of 98% of Americans, there's a cancer-causing chemical coursing through your veins and arteries right now. And the guy who warned us about it was yet again dismissed as a delusional conspiracy theorist. He is Robert Billett, a corporate defense lawyer in Cincinnati whose entire career was spent representing chemical companies.
I'm full
so
of
he was
cancer
about
right
the
now.
last person
Oh,
you'd
jeez.
expect to take on one of the most notorious in history. In 1998, a farmer approached him to say his cattle were dying, foaming at the mouth with their teeth turning black and tumors growing out of their sides. He'd filmed this all on a home video camera, and the footage is genuinely horrible, with cows stumbling around and collapsing by a creek that runs downstream from a DuPont landfill. He'd already tried local
DuPont,
regulators,
yeah,
state
that's a
agencies, and
famous
every lawyer in the
company.
region, but nobody would touch it because in that part of West Virginia, the company he suspected of being behind it, called DuPont, was one that you didn't want to mess with.
Yeah, they
What
got way too
Robert
much
found
money.
when he started pulling at the thread would consume the next 25 years of his life. He requested internal documents from DuPont that pointed to a chemical called PFOA, also known as C8, which was used in manufacturing Teflon, the
Teflon.
non-stick coating on your pans, your waterproof jackets, your microwave popcorn bags, basically
Ew.
everyday products
I don't like microwave popcorn. Hot take. I know some people do. I don't like it.
every household
It's
in the
gross.
country. DuPont had then been dumping
The
this
smell makes
into
me
the local
ill.
water supply, and their own
I
internal
don't really like
studies
cinemas
showed
either, to
they
be
knew
honest.
exactly the damage it was capable of
I
inflicting.
love it. Yeah, some
They'd
people really
found
like it.
elevated cancer rates in their own factory workers.
Oh, fuck.
They tested the blood of pregnant
Oh,
employees and found the
shit.
chemical in their unborn children. They knew it accumulated in human tissue, and they knew it didn't break down ever. This is Robert
Oh,
speaking out
my.
about it himself.
We're talking about chemical contamination that goes far beyond, excuse me, far beyond one farmer's property in West Virginia. We're talking about contamination now that's in drinking water all across this country and now all across the world.
Today, the term forever chemicals that you're probably familiar with is basically all because of his work.
We are now bringing a new case where we're seeking to represent everyone in the country who now has these chemicals in their blood. But what we now know is PFOA is just one of many of these man-made synthetic chemicals that are getting out in our water, in our blood.
As Robert says, it doesn't even stop there because these chemicals have been leached across the US.
Just outside of Bangor, Maine is Herman High School. Some 500 kids come here each day to learn, but they can't drink the water.
We're alleging that 3M and DuPont created these chemicals, had the science that showed just how dangerous they were.
I mean, there's so many companies that do this shit, and it's all hidden because they have so much fuck you money that if you start outcrying, like, what is that town where you can't fucking drink water? They're poisoning the entire town and like they can't move out. Like, I know it's not related. Those are two different things. There's Flint, Michigan, but there's another town that has a factory nearby that completely fucks everything. And they're like dying of like cancer. And then there's like a strawberry thing too I recently read as well. Yeah, like they spray so much poison on the strawberries by, I think it was the Driscolls. I forget what company it is, but yeah, they basically like have an entire town that gets like super sick.
Toxic they were, how they were going to last forever.
Seeing correlations with thyroid disease, certain kinds of cancer, kidney disease, liver dysfunction. They're called forever chemicals because they stay in your body.
They're in the
Each generation has their own poison. It's tradition. Yeah, and they don't do anything about it. They just move on to the next poison.
That water, they're in the rain, they're in the food supply.
Yep.
They've even reached the Arctic and other countries. So this disaster is not only contained to the US. DuPont settled the initial lawsuits for $670 million, and
That's
the
not
litigation
enough.
is still ongoing. The story
don't
was
even
eventually
care,
made
bro.
into a Hollywood film, Dark Waters, in 2019, starring Mark Ruffalo as Robert, and a
Ruffle.
documentary, The Devil We Know,
Rufflecopter.
which followed the families in West Virginia whose water had been poisoned.
Yep.
But no one listened until
West
the damage was
Virginia.
done. And that's the way it goes time after time
Mama.
after time. They get called crazy. They lose their career, their family, all their life, and then years later,
On
a document
purpose.
surfaces, a court makes a ruling, or a journalist finally gets hold of the file, and the lie is suddenly the truth. Maybe this is you. Maybe you've had a feeling about something that didn't add up and kept it to yourself because you didn't want to sound like one of those people. Whether it be about major wars, intelligence agencies, or even things like COVID. You've probably at least once felt like something was truly—
Didn't they release? They made a quote-unquote official statement that Fauci lied the whole time. Yeah, just like straight up. Like everybody knew it, but like at the same time, it's like, yeah, thanks for the transparency, buddy.
off with the
That's
official
cool.
narrative. And so really this video should show that the line between being right and being crazy has never been as clear as we pretend it is. The people who feature in this still barely scratch the surface. And the
Nope.
worst bit is how everyone eventually forgets and moves on, and how the bar for what shocks society—
It's even worse now with social media because we get bombarded with so much information, it doesn't linger in our brains.
It keeps getting higher and higher until eventually nothing, no matter how horrifying, can top it.
Yeah. Damn. Chad, I am a fine individual. I do not want to perish at any point in my time. I am doing great. Please, FBI, please do not, please don't cut the brakes on my car. I would really appreciate it. I would really like to have brakes on my car. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Yes, go check them out, man.
Oh, yeah.